Raymond never wanted younger siblings, whether a brother or a sister. He wanted to be the only one, the center of his mother Ria's world, especially after their father abandoned them. But it seemed having only him wasn't enough for her. She remarried just a year after the abandonment, bringing a new man into their home. Raymond was only 12 when his new family arrived. His new father, Charles Wins, stood tall, almost intimidating in presence. Raymond smiled politely, showing the respect his mother had asked of him. He thought he could handle the man, handsome and composed, but something about the way Charles smiled at him made him feel strange. Still, he was too young to notice anything off about it. His attention quickly shifted to the boy standing behind his new father. His new sibling. Chase, honey, meet your older brother, Charles said, nudging the small boy forward. Raymond was surprised. The kid was tiny, a head shorter than him, with round, dumpling-like cheeks and big, sparkling eyes. His thick, black hair fell slightly over his forehead, and he clutched a Doraemon plush tightly. As their eyes met, Raymond noticed Chase's eyes glittering even more, pure admiration shining through them. "Hi," Raymond said awkwardly. "Bye," and then he ran away. He was supposed to be the big, bad older brother. The sound of crying soon followed him, high-pitched and heartbreaking. "Big brother doesn't like me," Chase sobbed. Raymond groaned, spending the entire day listening to the endless crying. Eventually, out of sheer frustration, he stomped into Chase's room and handed him a chocolate bar. "Here, stop crying already." Chase's teary eyes widened before he let out a happy giggle, swinging his little legs as he ate the chocolate, his eyes never leaving Raymond. Awkwardly, Raymond patted his head before turning away. Watching from the doorway, Ria smiled. Maybe they're getting along. Charles, however, had a knowing look in his eyes. Yes, they are. He watched his son carefully. Chase hates chocolate. Years passed. Raymond never imagined his life turning out the way it did. He was caged, a bird with clipped wings, owned by only one person. Seated at his desk, gripping his book tightly, he watched as Chase stepped into his room, closing the door behind him. His little brother, once tiny, round-faced, and innocent, was now towering over him at 6 feet 2. Gone were the chubby cheeks, instead, a sharp jawline and a straight bridge nose had taken their place. The sparkling eyes had darkened, swirling with possession and obsession directed solely at Raymond. Chase had grown into perfection, handsome, intelligent, athletic, untouchable. But beneath the perfect facade lay something twisted. He didn't just want Raymond as a brother. He wanted him to belong to him, mind, body, and soul. Raymond tried to keep his distance, but Chase always found ways to close the gap. He invaded his space, controlled his life, ensured no one got too close. Anyone who showed the slightest interest in Raymond mysteriously disappeared. Chase dictated everything: who Raymond spoke to, where he went, what he wore. His obsession was suffocating. Raymond hated it, or maybe he didn't. "Brother Ray Ray," Chase called, the cold expression he wore for the world vanishing as soon as he was alone with Raymond. "Not now, please," Raymond sighed, rubbing his temple. Chase didn't listen. He wrapped his arms around Raymond from behind, pressing close. "Brother Ray Ray, I'm hungry. Eat this." Raymond handed him a chocolate bar. Chase took it but pouted. "Yes, but why can't I have you now? I'm studying." "Are you mad at me?" "No, I'm sorry," Chase murmured, his voice soft but dark. "But you know I didn't do it for nothing." Raymond stiffened. "Shut up. I told you not to fight for such nonsense reasons." "It's not nonsense." Chase's voice dipped lower, more dangerous. "He tried to touch you." Raymond exhaled sharply. So breaking his hand was necessary. He remembered earlier that day, a classmate had reached for his waist during gym. Before he could react, Chase had already tackled the guy to the ground, quite literally snapping his wrist. That was Chase. Possessive, obsessive, dangerous. "You're being ridiculous," Raymond muttered. Chase didn't respond with words. Instead, he lifted Raymond effortlessly, setting him on the desk before resting his head on his shoulder. His hold was firm, almost desperate. "Sorry," Chase whispered. "I'm sorry. Don't be mad at me. I'll try to be good." Raymond heard the slight sniffles. He felt the hot tears against his skin. He sighed. "Fine. Just calm down. Be good." Chase lifted his head, locking eyes with him before gently grabbing Raymond's chin. Without hesitation, he kissed him, hungry, aggressive, possessive. Raymond sighed against his lips before kissing back. At dinner, Chase's hand remained on Raymond's thigh, grip possessive yet oddly gentle. No matter how much Raymond tried to push it away, Chase wouldn't let go. After showering that night, Raymond stepped out in his pajamas, towel drying his wet hair. He stopped short at the sight of Chase lounging on his bed. "What are you doing here?" Raymond hissed. "Mom and Dad are home. What if they see?" His words were cut off as Chase grabbed him, pulling him into a back hug, nuzzling his nose into Raymond's damp hair, inhaling deeply. "Chase, let go." Raymond struggled slightly, but Chase only held him tighter, his voice soft yet firm. "You're warm, brother Ray Ray. Don't push me away." Raymond exhaled. "You're too much." "Maybe," Chase murmured against his neck. "But only for you." Raymond sighed, finally giving in. That night, Chase held him tightly, securing him in his arms. It was possessive, firm, unyielding, but comforting. Chase smiled to himself, inhaling deeply, savoring the moment. From childhood until now, everything he felt was solely for Raymond: happiness, sadness, possessiveness, obsession. Raymond was his, and no one else could have him. Chase never understood jealousy. He'd never needed to. It wasn't a feeling that had ever surfaced, because no one had ever mattered enough for it to. His life was simple, quiet, controlled, and predictable. Then Raymond stepped in, and suddenly everything felt wrong, in a way that Chase couldn't quite explain. It started small. A laugh here, a friendly touch there. But when that random kid at school attached himself to Raymond like some leech, laughing too much, calling him Ray, with a smile that made Chase's stomach twist, something inside him snapped. He didn't react, didn't show it. He simply stared, his chest tight, the discomfort unfamiliar but undeniable. Later, when they were walking home, Chase's voice broke the silence between them, low and clipped. "You don't need to talk to those people." Raymond shot him a confused look, raising an eyebrow. "Who?" "That kid. The one calling you Ray, like your friends or something." Raymond chuckled, amused, oblivious. "I have a lot of friends, Chase. You should make some too." Chase scowled, irritation bubbling up at the mere suggestion. "I don't want to." Raymond sighed, reaching out to ruffle Chase's hair. The simple act, so casual, sent an unexpected warmth through Chase's chest. "Then I guess you're stuck with me, huh?" Chase didn't respond, lost in the way Raymond's hand lingered for a moment too long. And then Raymond said it, those words that left a mark deeper than anything Chase had ever experienced. "It's fine. You're my little Chase anyway." "My Chase." The phrase buzzed in Chase's mind, repeated over and over in an endless loop. "My Chase." It was simple, yet it shattered something inside him. He wasn't just some kid to Raymond. No, Raymond had claimed him, in a way that felt more final than any words could describe. And suddenly, nothing else mattered. No one else could have Raymond. And no one else would have him. It happened a week later. Raymond, ever the carefree soul, had been sneaky. It wasn't hard to find out, though. Chase wasn't an idiot. He'd seen the way Raymond had acted that afternoon, the way he looked a little too bright after he'd left for his study group. And now, here he was, Raymond coming through the door of their shared house, smiling, as if nothing was wrong. But Chase was waiting. He stood in the shadows of the hallway, his arms crossed, his jaw clenched tightly. Raymond froze when he saw him, a flicker of surprise in his eyes, but Chase didn't let him speak. "You ignored my calls," Chase muttered, his voice cold. Before Raymond could react, before he could even blink, Chase had shoved him against the door, his hand pressing firmly against Raymond's chest to keep him pinned. Raymond's eyes widened, but the shock quickly melted into something more curious. "Chase." "No." Chase's tone was firm, his grip tightening on Raymond's chin, forcing his face upward to meet his gaze. "You're mine, brother Ray. Stop trying to fight it. You know I won't ever stop chasing you." Raymond's breath caught, his lips parted, eyes searching Chase's face for some sign of the usual boy he knew. But what he saw now was different. This wasn't the guy who kept everything buried beneath sarcasm or quiet protectiveness. This was something darker, something raw, the kind of intensity that made Raymond's stomach drop. And that was when he realized, Chase wasn't just protective. He was dangerous. The words echoed in Raymond's mind as his heart raced, fear mingling with something else, something thrilling, something he didn't understand but couldn't deny. Chase wasn't just chasing him. He was claiming him, and Raymond, for the first time, wasn't sure whether he wanted to run or stay. The next morning, their parents were out for work. Being home all alone was like heaven to Chase, who was all over Raymond. Raymond sat on the couch, trying to focus on his phone, but Chase had other plans. He hovered his knee between Raymond's legs, kissing and sucking over the sensitive skin of his neck. Raymond squirmed, trying to keep steady. "Chase, stop. We'll be late for class," Raymond muttered, his voice unconvincing as his hand weakly pushed against Chase's chest. "Brother Ray," Chase drawled, his eyes darkening with frustration. "Just when will you stop resisting?" Raymond's fingers fidgeted nervously. "You know this isn't right. We're brothers." "We aren't." Chase's tone turned sharp, possessive. "It's Step." Raymond sighed, shoulders slumping. "Yes, but still, for everyone else, we're brothers. What would Mom and Dad think if they found out?" His voice wavered with fear, and Chase knew that was the real reason Raymond kept pulling away. For the first time, Chase didn't argue. Instead, he sighed, gently pressing a kiss to Raymond's forehead. "If that's what's making you feel so guilty about being with me, then I'm sorry. I guess I'll start keeping my distance if that's what will make you happy." He didn't wait for a response. Grabbing his bag, Chase turned and walked out, leaving Raymond frozen on the couch, confused, taken aback, and hollow. That day at university, Chase actually kept his word. He didn't chase after Raymond. Unlike usual, he didn't run to him after class, didn't bring him snacks, didn't check on him between lectures, didn't steal kisses in quiet corners, didn't even appear before Raymond at all. And it left Raymond exhausted, scared, and heartbroken. Without Chase around, everything felt empty and suffocating. Like the air itself had been taken away with him. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the empty university courtyard. Raymond stood by the bench where Chase usually waited for him, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. The silence around him felt heavier than ever, like the weight of guilt pressing down on his shoulders. He didn't come today either. Raymond's eyes scanned the path leading from the lecture hall, but it remained deserted. His chest ached with an unfamiliar pang, regret. He pulled out his phone, hesitating for a moment before typing a message. "Raymond, where are you? Are you okay?" No reply. Minutes stretched into an hour, and the screen remained blank. Chase never left him hanging like this. He always replied, always showed up, always made sure Raymond never felt alone, even when Raymond pushed him away. Frustration bubbled up, mixing with fear. He shoved his phone into his pocket and stormed home, his thoughts a chaotic mess. When he finally pushed open the apartment door, the lights were dim. The only sound was the faint hum of the fridge. Raymond's heart sank further. Is he not home yet? But then he saw it, the pair of sneakers tossed carelessly by the door. Chase was home. "Chase!" Raymond called out, his voice echoing in the silence. No answer. He hurried down the hallway, heart pounding, until he reached Chase's room. The door was ajar, and inside, Chase lay on his bed, one arm slung over his eyes, earbuds in place. Raymond hesitated at the threshold. He had spent so much time resisting, running, convincing himself that this was wrong, that what they shared was a mistake. But now, standing there, watching Chase deliberately ignore him for the first time, the emptiness inside him spoke louder than any logic. "Chase," Raymond murmured, stepping into the room. Chase didn't move. Raymond swallowed hard, then sat down on the edge of the bed, gently tugging one earbud out. "Chase, talk to me. Please." Chase blinked up at him, eyes devoid of their usual playful glint. "Why? So you can remind me again how wrong I am for loving you." His tone was flat, cold in a way that sent a chill down Raymond's spine. Raymond flinched. "I didn't mean to hurt you, I was scared. Still am. But," he bit his lip, struggling with words he had buried for so long. "But being without you today felt worse than any fear I've ever had." Chase sat up slowly, eyes searching Raymond's face. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" Raymond nodded, cheeks flushing. "I'm tired of pretending. I'm tired of pushing you away when you're the only person who makes me feel whole." For the first time that day, a small, hopeful smile tugged at Chase's lips. He reached out, fingers brushing against Raymond's. "You really mean that?" Raymond leaned in, forehead resting against Chase's. "Yeah, I do." Chase chuckled softly, pulling Raymond into a warm embrace. "Took you long enough, Brother Ray." Raymond groaned, cheeks burning. "Don't call me that, it makes it weird." "Fine," Chase teased, tightening his hold. "How about, my Ray, instead?" Raymond didn't argue this time. He just sighed contentedly, letting himself fall into the warmth he had denied for far too long. Chase's arms tightened around Raymond, pulling him closer until there was no space left between them. The warmth of Chase's breath fanned across his cheek, and before Raymond could process the moment, Chase's lips were on his, rough, demanding, and desperate, like a man starved for air. Raymond froze, caught off guard by the intensity. Chase wasn't kissing him like before, playful and teasing. This was possessive, almost punishing, as if he was staking his claim, reminding Raymond what he'd tried to push away. Chase, Raymond gasped between kisses, but Chase didn't let go. His hand gripped the back of Raymond's neck, keeping him in place while his other arm wrapped tightly around his waist, making escape impossible. Do you know how it felt? Chase growled against his lips. Watching you act like we're nothing. Like what we have is shameful. Raymond's heart pounded in his chest, not just from the kiss but from the raw hunger in Chase's eyes. It was terrifying and intoxicating all at once, like standing at the edge of a cliff, knowing the fall would destroy him but craving the rush anyway. I hate it when you push me away, Chase continued, voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. You belong here, with me, only me. Raymond should have been scared. Hell, he was scared. Chase's grip was firm, almost caging, his body pressed so tightly against him that it was hard to breathe. But beneath the fear, something else stirred, something warm, familiar, and undeniable. He missed this. The overwhelming presence of Chase, the way he made Raymond feel seen, wanted, needed. The emptiness he'd felt all day without Chase around now felt laughable, like he'd been starving himself out of sheer stubbornness. Slowly, hesitantly, Raymond's hands found their way to Chase's chest, not to push him away but to pull him closer. I hate you, Raymond muttered against Chase's lips, voice shaky but honest. For making me want this. For making me need you this much. Chase froze for a second, eyes searching Raymond's face for any sign of hesitation. But all he found was flushed cheeks, swollen lips, and pupils blown wide with want. You don't hate me, Chase murmured, voice softening as he leaned in, brushing his nose against Raymond's. You hate how much you love me. Raymond didn't argue this time. He just closed the gap again, surrendering to the one person he couldn't live without. Suddenly, Chase's grip tightened, so tight that Raymond let out a soft gasp, the air squeezed from his lungs. Chase's face was buried in his neck, lips brushing skin with each ragged breath. Brother Ray, Chase whispered, voice disturbingly calm, can I know what scares you most? Others finding out, or our parents? Raymond didn't think much of it, too focused on the warmth seeping into his skin and the weight pressing down on him. He sighed, fingers weakly grasping Chase's shirt. Parents, he murmured, voice tired but honest. You know they love us so much. I don't want to disappoint them. For a moment, everything stilled. The only sound was their uneven breathing, and the world outside felt far away, like they were trapped in a bubble of their own making. Then Chase chuckled, low and humorless. It wasn't the soft, boyish laugh Raymond knew. It was colder, darker. Parents, huh, Chase muttered, pulling back just enough for Raymond to see the shadow in his eyes. So, if they weren't in the picture, you wouldn't have a reason to push me away. Raymond blinked, confusion flickering across his face. What are you even? Chase, you're scaring me. Good, Chase said flatly, thumb brushing along Raymond's jaw, almost tenderly. Maybe fear will make you finally understand. Raymond tried to shift, but Chase didn't let go. His grip only grew stronger, like iron bands locking Raymond in place. I love you, Brother Ray, Chase continued, voice sickeningly sweet. But I'm tired of begging for scraps of your love while you hide behind what ifs, and what would they think? Chase, stop it, Raymond pleaded, voice shaking. You're not thinking straight. Chase smiled, a sharp, dangerous curve of his lips. I've never thought clearer. If they're the only thing stopping you from being mine completely, maybe it's time to remove the obstacle. Raymond's heart dropped. What do you mean? He asked, voice barely a whisper. Chase didn't answer. He simply leaned in, pressing a lingering kiss to Raymond's trembling lips before pulling away, eyes cold and resolute. You'll understand soon enough, Chase said quietly, letting go at last. I'll make sure nothing ever stands between us again. And with that, he turned and walked away, leaving Raymond frozen in place, dread pooling in his stomach like ice. What had he just unleashed? Raymond had fallen asleep in Chase's arms, breathing soft and even, his face relaxed in rare peace. Chase didn't move, just stared down at him, smile gentle but eyes darkening with each passing second. Parents, Chase scoffed silently. They're anything but that. His mind drifted back to that night when everything changed. Chase had woken up, restless and wanting to see Raymond. He'd quietly padded down the hallway, hard light at the thought of crawling into bed with his brother, like they always did when one of them had trouble sleeping. But when he reached Raymond's door, he froze. There, standing at the foot of the bed, was him. Their so-called father. The man wasn't moving, just staring at Raymond in the most unsettling, predatory way. The dim light from the hallway cast shadows across his face, distorting his expression into something inhuman. The moment he saw Chase, the man straightened, plastering on a sickeningly normal smile. Couldn't sleep, huh? Just checking on him. And then he left, brushing past Chase like nothing had happened. But Chase didn't move. He stood there, numb, until Raymond shifted under the blankets. "You're awkward again," Raymond murmured sleepily, rubbing his eyes, completely unaware of the danger that had just stood mere inches away from him. Chase swallowed the lump in his throat and nodded. Raymond smiled, warm and drowsy. "Okay, come." Without hesitation, Chase slipped into the bed, curling up beside him. Raymond hugged him close, his warmth seeping into Chase's skin like a soothing balm. Chase didn't sleep that night. He just lay there, arms wrapped protectively around Raymond, eyes fixed on the door. Never again, he'd sworn silently. "No one's getting near you while I'm here." That night had carved the obsession deep into Chase's soul, an unshakable need to shield Raymond from everything, no matter the cost. And their mother. Chase's jaw tightened. Raymond's mother. The woman played her role perfectly, soft-spoken, nurturing, always doting on Raymond. But Chase had seen the truth. The secret lovers, the hushed phone calls, the money exchanged behind closed doors. It was why Raymond's real father had walked out, why the woman clung to this sham of a family. Raymond never knew, never suspected. He was too young, too pure to understand the filth surrounding him. And Chase would never let him find out. But now, Chase's lips curled into a dark smirk as he glanced at the window, where the faint glow of streetlights illuminated the driveway. Their parents were out, in the car, together. Guess it'll be their last drive, Chase thought coldly, thumb brushing along Raymond's cheek. No parents, no barriers. Just me and my brother Ray. His twisted thoughts were interrupted by soft murmurs. "You aren't asleep," Raymond mumbled, voice thick with sleep as he snuggled closer, completely unaware of the storm brewing in Chase's mind. Chase's smirk softened into something almost tender. He hugged Raymond tighter, lips brushing against his hair. "Just watching over you," he whispered. And he meant every word. The next morning felt eerily normal. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting soft patterns on the bed where Raymond still slept, curled up in Chase's arms. Chase hadn't moved all night, watching over him like a silent guardian. But today was going to be different. The phone rang, sharp and shrill, slicing through the quiet morning air. Raymond stirred, groaning softly as he blinked awake. Chase reached out lazily, grabbing the phone from the nightstand. "Hello," Chase answered, voice calm, almost bored. Raymond sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. And then Chase's expression shifted. Perfectly, eyes widening in mock surprise, lips parting as if in shock. "What?" Chase's voice trembled, but not with real emotion. "An accident." Raymond froze. "What accident?" he asked, heart already sinking. Chase lowered the phone, gaze locking with Raymond's. He didn't speak right away, letting the silence stretch long enough for dread to crawl under Raymond's skin. "It's Mom and Dad," Chase finally said, voice low, almost gentle. "There was a car crash last night, they didn't make it." For a moment, Raymond just stared, mind refusing to process the words. No, that can't be," his voice broke, panic flooding his chest as he stumbled out of bed, shaking his head wildly. "They were fine last night. They said they'd be back." Chase caught him before he could collapse, strong arms wrapping around Raymond's trembling frame. "I'm sorry, Brother Ray," Chase murmured, his tone dripping with sympathy as he stroked Raymond's hair. "I'm so sorry." Raymond broke. The weight of loss crashed down on him, and he sobbed into Chase's chest, fists clutching at his shirt like a lifeline. "They're gone, oh God, they're really gone." Chase held him tighter, chin resting atop Raymond's head. His hand never stopped its soothing motions, circling along Raymond's back, fingers trailing down his spine. But while his lips whispered soft reassurances, his eyes gleamed with something far darker. Hidden from Raymond's view, a cruel smirk tugged at the corner of Chase's mouth. Gone. Just like that. No more obstacles. No more fake family ties holding Raymond back. Now, Raymond was his and his alone, broken, vulnerable, and in desperate need of comfort. And who else could provide that but Chase? Shish, Chase cooed, the smirk fading as he kissed Raymond's temple, voice dripping with false sweetness. I'm here, Brother Ray. I'll always be here. I'll take care of everything, I promise. Raymond didn't notice the glint in Chase's eyes. He didn't hear the satisfaction woven into the gentle words. All he felt was warmth, safety, and a love that had already crossed the line into obsession. Final scene. Bound by love. Months passed, and life settled into a strange yet comforting rhythm. Chase had taken over his father's failing business, turning it around with sharp wit and ruthless efficiency. He handled meetings and deals with the same intensity he once chased after Raymond's attention. It wasn't just about success, it was about control, security, and keeping everything perfect for his Raymond. Raymond, on the other hand, had thrown himself into his art studies, finding solace in colors and canvases. But no matter how much he painted, the ache of losing his parents lingered, until Chase was there. Chase was always there. Whenever Raymond's eyes grew distant, Chase would pull him into a hug, murmuring soft promises. Whenever grief threatened to creep in, Chase kissed it away, slow and possessive, until Raymond forgot why he was sad in the first place. One evening, after Raymond's final exhibition at the university, they returned home, the soft glow of sunset filling the living room. Raymond collapsed onto the couch, exhausted yet smiling. Chase followed, ever the shadow, ever the protector. Tired? Chase asked, voice low as he leaned over the couch, caging Raymond between his arms. Completely. Raymond chuckled, eyes fluttering shut. But happy. You know, I don't think I'd have made it without you, Chase. Something dark flickered in Chase's eyes, quickly replaced by tenderness. I told you, Brother Ray, you're mine to protect. Stepbrother, Raymond teased softly, tracing a finger along Chase's jaw. You never let me forget that part. Chase didn't smile. Instead, he leaned in, lips brushing against Raymond's ear. Because it means there's nothing stopping me from loving you like this. Before Raymond could respond, Chase kissed him, deep, slow, and possessive. It wasn't the desperate, almost angry kiss from months ago. This was gentler, but no less consuming. Like Chase had finally found peace in holding what he wanted most. Raymond melted into it, fingers curling into Chase's shirt, heart pounding. The fear, the hesitation, it had all faded with time, replaced by a dangerous kind of comfort. Stay with me forever, Chase whispered against his lips, eyes dark and unwavering. No more sadness, no more loneliness, just us. Raymond smiled, brushing his thumb over Chase's cheek. Forever, he promised, and in Chase's mind, forever meant always. No escape, no interruptions, just love, twisted, possessive, and all-consuming. But Raymond didn't mind anymore. Because, in Chase's arms, he felt safe. Even if he never realized the danger that safety came with.